Thank you, everybody. My name is Paul Riley, for you who don't know me. I recognize a lot of people in the audience, and it's good to see that, and a lot of new faces, too. I usually go forward and come backwards. I'm going to take a little different tack today. I'm going to go back, start at the beginning and kind of go forward. So, for you who don't know me, I'm not from Virginia originally. My wife and I retired here 14 years ago from Germany and settled in the Crozet area. It's our 19th house. It's been a long road, and it was a great run while we had it. But I was born in upstate New York in a rural area, much like this part of Central Virginia, a little more hilly maybe, but and we lived 14 miles from the nearest village. So if you wanted milk or anything, you had to really. We got it from the local dairy farm, where I started my work ethic, my career. My first job was milking cows in 1982, 80. Somewhere around in there, 80, 82. And I thought I was making big money back then, $6 a milking. If you did it in 2 hours, that's $3. That's like more than minimum wage back then. So, you try to hurry up and get it done. But from there, from the great state of New York, I went to, moved to Florida, where I attended upon graduation from high school, I attended a small university up in the Panhandle of Florida, and I'm sure you guys have all heard of it, Florida State University. Yeah, go Noles? No? Nobody? Okay. one Noel? I know I'm in Who territory, so I have to say that. So, upon graduation, I joined the Army. I joined the Army as an enlisted soldier after obtaining a 4-year degree. And I think that probably did me well going forward as a person, because I was able to learn the other side before I finally became an officer almost 9 years later. And it was pure economics, folks, let me tell you. I was a staff sergeant, an E6, and my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I looked at the pay scale, and I'm like, oh, hell no. I need to become an officer. And so I did. But it was the best move I made in my life, besides getting married and having children, becoming an officer, because it kind of it gave me a better perspective on things. Like I said, we were stationed all over the world: Panama, England, Germany. I went to some nice vacation spots, Iraq and Afghanistan. I don't recommend them this time of year; it's a little warm. But during that time, I developed the skills and the leadership required to make me a congressman for the 5th Congressional District. Besides the leadership skills honed, I learned conflict resolution. I had to work with foreign governments. I had to work with, the British government. I had to work with the Iraqi. I was an advisor to an Iraqi counterpart of mine, Major Hussein. And then in Afghanistan, I worked with the Germans. And then, one of the big things, I stopped, not bragging on myself, I stopped an international incident down in Ecuador back in 1995 when something went south on a mission. Went way south. And everybody was there, to include the U.S. ambassador and stuff like that, but it all got smoothed out, and we were able to resolve it in a timely manner. So, coupled with the leadership skills, I bring empathy and compassion, because you have to have that. As a trained intelligence professional, I'm telling you, I don't go to the commander and tell him what we're doing. I go to the commander and tell him what the other side is doing. And Gary alluded to it earlier. I'm not going to call them an enemy per se, but I'm saying I can look at what they're thinking and kind of make a decision based off of that. Now, is it easy? Nope. Not with the other side, because they're certifiably nuts. But there are some, and I'm thoroughly convinced, there are some in the middle that you can bring over into the fold that can work with you. And I'm prepared on day one to bring 3 pieces of legislation to the front. It's a Health and Equality Reform Act for women's health care and equality in America. The Equality Act has languished. And our women and our LGBT communities and stuff like that, they're getting pushed to the side, and we're going backwards. We're trending backwards. Another key piece of legislation I'm a big proponent of taxes, because I don't know about you guys, but in my opinion, I pay way more than my fair share of taxes. Well, we have billionaires and millionaires getting by, and thankfully, because of the Infrastructure Reform Act that President Biden was so greatly to get done, they put more IRS agents in charge now, and now they're starting to go after those tax cheats, which is a big step forward. But my second piece of legislation would be the middle income tax reform act, tax and equality act, and then my third piece of legislation would be for teachers and in infrastructure. I think that we sell ourselves a disservice with our teachers. Virginia's struggling right now with the teachers that we have, a lack of teachers, and so I kind of want to have a national, sort of like we do in the military. You go to school for 4 years, we pay your degree, pay for you to get your degree, pay for you to get your teacher certificate, and then you go do 5 years of community teaching. It doesn't matter where, inner city, rural, probably more rural because we're a very rural district, and we kind of populate our teacher population back to where it needs to be. And then we got to bring kind of almost like a national average of teacher salaries, because our teachers are woefully underpaid. And then one other thing I would like to do, I mean, it's called the Teacher Infrastructure Rural Reform Education Act, TIERA, which in Spanish means land. But one other thing I'd like to propose in that would be to give them a one-time stipend and to give them little percent financing to get them to buy a house in the local area where they're teaching. And I say that from personal experience because as my kids went to Western Albemarle, their wrestling coach, great man, Adam McKay, he lived in Fishersville. And that man had long days traveling back and forth with his own family, and his wife Elizabeth also taught at Western, but they could not afford, even dual income teachers could not afford to live in Western Albemarle County, which is, to me, is a tragedy of epic proportion. So, we want to make sure that we make sure our teachers get the help and the stuff that they need. And couple that with digital infrastructure. We are sorely lacking broadband in this area. It's a big do, and there's stuff out there. Bob Good was not. I'll call him no bueno because that means Spanish for no good. But there's money out there. $56 billion was earmarked for infrastructure, and did he bring any of it back to this district? No, he did not. He did. At least some of the other Congress people, they had the chutzpah to go take it back to their district and claim, even though they didn't vote for it, claim they're bringing it back. He couldn't even do that. He just decided, no, I'm not going to do it. So I think that it was a travesty of epic proportion on his, and a fail on his part. So having said that, we need to take this country forward. We need consensus, not conflict. And we need to be able to have some communication, some collaboration, and some collective bargaining in the middle. And if they don't want to, that's fine, because we're going to take back the House, and we're going to shore up, and we're going to expand the majority. We're going to expand the majority in the Senate, and we're going to keep the White House. And so what that's going to do is that's going to take President Biden's agenda, and we're going to go and run with it. And if they don't want to run with us, they can sit on the side. Or if they want to be an obstacle, we can go around them and we can go over them, or we can just go right through them and just take the fight right to them, because, this country is in the 21st century. We're not in the 20th century. It's not 1957. And they need to understand that. And the things they're doing, especially what galls me, is like in Idaho, with the emergency room stuff that they're taking, they're fighting to give women, take away more and more rights. Was absolutely, our daughter is in the Army. She's a first lieutenant about ready to get promoted. And God forbid if something happened and she was in one of those states and she couldn't get the access or the care she needed, that would be absolutely tragic. And so we need to fight and ensure that we have a platform and laws in place that the Supreme Court, the current Supreme Court, cannot roll back. I'm a firm believer. People call me a little bit crazy, but we have 12 circuit courts or federal circuits in the United States, so we should have 13 Supreme Court justices. So, kind of cut the head off the snake a little bit, because you can look at the hypocrisy with the Supreme Court and the things they just keep rolling back, and they find ways to twist them. I'm not a lawyer by any stretch of imagination, but they find these legal ways to try to twist things around, and they're getting away with it, much to everybody's chagrin. So I won't belabor the point, but early voting's on. Get out there and vote. June 18th is going to be a pivotal day. Our country and our democracy needs it. So thank you very much for your time.